As we've come to the end of the year and it's the season of giving, it's a great time to hold a giveaway as well as look back over 2023 to see what some of the key highlights were. Plus I'd like to go back a little bit further to share how my houseplant journey started and why I started the channel. So I'll be sharing my top 10 videos from the year. Hopefully you will have seen them, but if not, you can find them on the channel. And as I'll be sharing more about my houseplant journey, I'd love to hear about yours too. So please do share in the comments below how you first started getting interested in houseplants and how your houseplant collection has grown, whether that be over years or more so recently. I'd love to hear your story too. So I'll start with my houseplant journey and why I started the channel, and there will be the opportunity to provide feedback as we go through the video, so just put that in the comments below if any comes to mind. You can also skip ahead to the highlights or the giveaway if you wish to, but hopefully you'll stay for this section and it'll be interesting to see if there are any similarities between our houseplant journeys. Now when it comes to plants, are you only interested in houseplants or do you like getting outside in nature, gardening, maybe growing your own too? So that's pretty much how my journey started. My parents were fairly keen gardeners, liked to keep things looking nice, grow different things, and they got me involved to an extent. So I think that's where I've picked up the interest from a young age. And then when I was 18, I moved to a university accommodation, and from that point on pretty much lived in flats or apartments. So very limited room to grow anything outdoors. Definitely no gardens. There were some balconies, but as I said, quite limited room to really grow anything substantial. Now that's going back about 10 years, maybe up to 15 years, so the houseplant market, while houseplants were available, it just wasn't what it is today, so that wasn't really on my radar at the time. Although I was starting to get the itch to get my hands on some greenery the longer I was in those apartments. However, I did get my first houseplant when I was in one of those apartments, and that was a Monstera Deliciosa for £5 from a supermarket, and that was actually my only houseplant for a while until I was fortunate enough to get this house that I live in today. So I've been here for about 7 years, and this came with a front garden and a back garden. So I had a blank canvas because it was a new build, so nothing in the garden at all, a blank canvas to put my green thumb to work and get lots of plants and then start growing outdoors again. Now it wasn't long until those gardens were full, and some of those images that I've shown were early on, so a lot of those plants have since grown a lot bigger, they've matured and filled out that space, although I did manage to squeeze in some extra plants where I could, and that actually prompted me to then get an allotment, so I had some extra room to try growing my own. And it was quite a large plot, about 180 metres squared, so it gave me loads of room to try growing all sorts of different vegetables, and I had that for about 3 years. It was a lot of work, obviously all of the groundwork, keeping on top of the weeds, trying to stop the pests from getting the vegetables before I could harvest them. A lot of work, but incredibly satisfying knowing that I was growing my own, and then obviously the fruits of that labour, being able to harvest all of the vegetables. And that, the last year that I had the allotment was also, I think, the first year of the pandemic, so it was also a really great green escape for me to get out of the house and go and spend time in that natural environment. But then I had a lot of other time commitments, so I eventually gave that up and just stuck with the garden. But with that sort of change of priorities and getting rid of the allotment, that's really where my houseplant interest started to grow, if you'll forgive the pun. Now I can't quite put my finger on exactly how my houseplant collection escalated to the point that it is now, but I did start collecting some plants while I had the allotment and before the pandemic, and this was really from the local garden centre. So we went there quite frequently, and I'd generally see different things, new varieties that I didn't have in the collection that I wanted to add, and also try to see if I could keep them alive and just to add that variety to the collection. So that started to grow it, and then this was quite early days for online plant retailers. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I'm quite cost conscious when it comes to buying, well, not just plants, but anything. So I was also shopping around, and with the online retailers, I managed to find other varieties that weren't available in the garden centre, but also for relatively good prices too. So I tried a few of those out, and that started to grow the collection, probably to a point where it was more houseplants than most would have, but maybe not quite, well, definitely not the extent that it is now. But with all of those houseplant orders, both using the garden centre and also the online retailers, it gave me a good understanding of the different plant varieties that were available, the prices that were on offer, but also how wildly those prices varied between retailers, and also how the plants were then packaged and how they arrived. Where did they arrive safely and healthy, for example? And that gave me the idea to start my own online houseplant shop. So that was incredibly exciting, but also quite nerve-wracking at the same time, because I had never done anything like this, and it was a lot of work too. So obviously setting up the company, setting up the website, all of the social media and the marketing, making sure processes were in place to obviously keep plants healthy, make sure they're looked after, the packaging, the postage, everything, all trying to get that all under control and ready for obviously sending out plant orders, and making sure that it was a really good customer experience too. So one of the things that I had picked up on, as I mentioned earlier, was all of the different online retailers that were selling plants, or even in-store as well in garden centres for example, the massive price differences, and some were quite, I would say, extortionate for the plants that they were selling. And it just made me think that plants should be accessible to everyone. People should be able to have greenery in their homes, particularly those that don't have access to gardens or allotments for example, or even natural green spaces outside their homes if they are limited. So I wanted my plant shop to have accessible pricing, so it wasn't necessarily the lowest on the market, but it was close to, so that it was accessible to people that wanted to find plants, and healthy plants at a good price, and add some greenery to their collection. So that was really the drive behind the business. And while that was a lot of work, it was also really enjoyable and quite fascinating too, to see all of the varieties of plants that were available, as well as the prices that they were sold for at wholesale. So I had access to a very large distribution wholesaler in the Netherlands that works with many of the main growers that sell houseplants there, but also some local ones too. And the prices that some of the plants go for, and pots as well and accessories at wholesale, is incredibly low, and some of the markups that they have in online stores or in retail stores is huge. So I'm actually that annoying person. Now that I know what I know, I will point out where I think things are extortionate for the markups that they have on them. But obviously businesses need to make a profit, they need to stay in business, but there's a balance within sort of reason. There's extortion and then there's reasonable pricing. So that was partly the reason behind my pricing strategy, to lower the markup so that I was still making a profit, still trying to stay in business, but also not extorting the customers and making the plants more accessible. So then, as an added benefit, that naturally grew my houseplant knowledge, because I wanted to make sure that all of the listings had the plant care instructions to make sure that customers could obviously keep their plants healthy and keep them alive. So for all of the many varieties, and there were quite a lot that I had during the time that I had the shop, I was obviously researching all of those different plants and making sure that I had the full care instructions. So that really helped me out in terms of my broader knowledge, not just on the varieties that were available, but also the varying needs of the different plants too. Now, as I said, I was doing this on top of my day job, and it was during the main part of the pandemic. So we weren't commuting, we weren't going out socialising because of restrictions, so I had plenty of time to look after the business. And that included a lot of different activities. So obviously caring for lots of plants, which could have been thousands of plants at any given time, prepping and packaging all of the orders, and then the general admin and accounting and things like that. And that was okay when I had the time to do it. But then when things started to calm down, we started to go into the office more, we started to socialise again, I started to study again, and something again had to give, just like with the allotment. And because of all of the extra work that was involved and trying to manage my time, the enjoyment of running the plant business was actually starting to wane, because it was becoming more of a job, or more of a chore actually. So I made the difficult decision to close the business, and I think from that point of doing so, that's really where my houseplant interest and the collection escalated, because I got that interest back and I was able to enjoy the plants as my own collection as opposed to using them as part of a business. Also, one of the influences on my houseplant collecting is of course social media. So when I had the business, I had an Instagram account and connected with loads of fantastic people, some of whom were my customers at the time, and many of which I am still in contact today and will still have conversations with on Instagram, or share photos, reels, comment on each other's content. So it's fantastic that those relationships have lasted, and it's just a great community to be part of. Now that leads nicely onto why I started the channel, and it is called Grow Your Wellbeing. So that is partly because of all of the wellbeing benefits of being around greenery, whether that's indoors or filling your home with plants. However, it relates back to my day job, so I'm currently a wellbeing lead for an organisation as part of their wider people team, and I've been in this sort of area for just over 10 years, so I've built up lots of knowledge and experience with wellbeing, how we can look after ourselves, tackle stress, build our resilience for example, and all different aspects of wellbeing that you can think of, as well as the qualifications and learning that I've done around things like mental wellbeing and psychology. So I wanted to try and factor in some of those elements into the different videos that I was making, but it's just kind of stuck to the houseplant niche quite naturally. It's just kind of gone that way. So if you do want to see any content around more well-being as opposed to just plants, do let me know in the comments below, and I can try and factor that into the video schedule as we go into 2024. And then lastly, all of that knowledge and experience that I got from running the houseplant business, all of the research that I did about the different varieties of plants and the plant care, I've got all of that to share. So that's what I wanted to do in the videos too, as well as just enjoying doing the research for the videos. So learning about new plants, learning about new plant care techniques or whatever it might be, and different histories and origins of plants is all really fascinating to me. So I enjoy that aspect too. So I get to keep learning about plants as well as sharing that knowledge and experience with you, the viewers. So I did rattle on a little bit there, but I hope you stayed with me, and do let me know in the comments below again if you share any of the same experiences with your houseplant journey. Did it just suddenly escalate at a given point in time? Did you pick up a lot more houseplants during the pandemic, or were you a long-time collector before the plant craze began during the pandemic? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below too. So this next section is going to be a quick fire round of the top 10 videos that I've enjoyed making this year, and also the ones that have had a really good sort of engagement level from you, the viewers, whether that's been sort of in the watch time or in the comments, as we sometimes get some good discussions going in the comments under the videos too. Hopefully you've watched them, but if you haven't had the chance to yet, you can find them all on the channel, but I'll also put all of the links to the videos I mentioned in the description below, so if any catch your eye, you can watch them next. So these aren't in any particular order, but the first one is the Filodendron Burkin Pink video and Burkin Care Guide. So it covers the standard Burkin and this new Filodendron Burkin Pink, the origins and complete care tips to look after them. But that was really interesting to research and look into, particularly this one, the Burkin Pink, as to how it's been cultivated, or at least speculate how it's been cultivated to have the wonderful white markings of the standard Burkin, but also this nice pink colour to it as well. So as I said, link in the description below if you want to watch that and maybe add your thoughts to the video too. And on a similar note, the next video is the Origins and Complete Care Guide for the Filodendron Painted Lady. Now this has been around for over 60 years, but considering it's only become popular over the last maybe 3 or 4, it seemed like it was a new cultivar at the time. So I was really fascinated to find when I was doing the research for the video that it has been around for so much longer. So if you want to go and check out the origin story of this, then again the link is in the description below. And this next one I think was my favourite video to make out of all of the ones that I'm highlighting. This is a Maro moss ball, or these are Maro moss balls, and I've got a video all about their origins and care. So if you've not watched that yet, they have a really amazing origins legend about how they came to be, but also they have some really amazing history and cultural significance to a tribe in Japan. So again, I cover all of that in the Maro moss ball origins and care video. Now this next one's a bit of a fun one, looking at the bad plant habits that we might be guilty of. So I think people could relate to some of these, and it got some really good engagement from viewers, even sharing other ones that weren't on the list in the comments below. So do go and check that out and see which ones you might be guilty of, or again, add any new ones in the comments below that video. So rather than us being the problem with our bad habits, this next one looks at problem plants. So those that are more difficult to keep happy and keep alive, as well as those that are maybe not so easy care as they are sold to be. So this one got a lot of engagement from viewers too, sharing their agreement over some of the plants in the comments below, as well as adding some new ones to the list. So check that out and see if you agree with some of the plants that are on the list, and maybe add your own if you've got new ones to add to the list too. Now this next one was incredibly interesting to research, and this was looking into the plant craze, how houseplants took off during the pandemic, and how some reached record prices before then completely crashing in price and possibly even reaching record low prices. So there's lots of examples in there, as well as some of the astonishing record prices that they reached. So again, check that out next, and if you can, think of any others that aren't on the list, share your examples in the comments below of the plants that you know that have shot up and then shot down in price over the last few years. Now this next one led naturally on from the plant craze video, as with the interest in houseplants growing, so too did the number of scammers trying to scam houseplant enthusiasts with rare or unicorn plants, then just doing a runner with the money. So I was recently scammed and wanted to make a video to share that experience, but also share some tips on things that you can do to check online retailers, be them individuals or main sellers, so that you can reassure yourself you're buying from a legitimate seller but also information about bioprotections that you should be aware of, so that should the worst happen, you are protected and can try and claim your money back if you happen to be scammed. So if you haven't watched that next, and you do shop online, not just for plants but for anything, check that out and it will help you hopefully shop online safely. Now this next one I think was one of my best plant purchases. So I bought a mystery plant cutting box and then unboxed it on the video, and there were 13 amazing plants in the box, as well as a Halloween themed box or trick or treat themed box, because it was Halloween season, and there was so much detail and care that had gone into the boxes, not to mention the amazing value of the plants as well, ticking some of them off my wish list as a result. So if you like unboxing videos and you like nice plant surprises as well as Halloween surprises, then check that video out. Again, the link is in the description below. Now going back to plant care videos, this next one is the updated Caladium winter care video. I managed to get hold of some fantastic Caladium bargains, so lots of wonderful colourful foliage, and I wanted to use them in a video and talk through the different varieties that I had. So I updated the video with the winter plant care tips for Caladiums to help them go into dormancy, and then also what you need to do to then bring them back in the spring so you've got happy and healthy plants the following year. So the last video to highlight is the one that I've made most recently, and this one is all about growing your houseplant collection for less. So I share my tips to help you save money when you're buying houseplants or even get them for free. But I've linked that one in the description below and at the end of the video if you'd like to watch that next. So those are my highlights for 2023, and if you have or do watch any of those videos, I hope you find them useful. I will do a follow-up video on things to look forward to for 2024 on the different videos that I'm hoping to create next year, and can you believe that's only going to be 2 weeks away and then we'll be in 2024. But as I said earlier in the video at a few points, if there's anything that you want to see, any topics you want me to cover, if I've got the knowledge or can do the research to cover those topics, then I will aim to do so. So let me know what you want to see and then I'll add them into the video schedule. So as I said at the start of the video, it is the season of giving, so it's the perfect time for a giveaway. I've got this plant themed bundle of goodies here, and this is just a selection. There will be more added to it as well. So some of these link back to the things that we've been talking about in the video so far and the videos that we've highlighted. So we've got some crafting kits here for painting or making macrame plant hangers, a really useful folding mat for potting up your plants and obviously containing the soil so you're not making a mess with the soil, a book on how not to kill your houseplants, so that links to the bad habits and the problem plant videos, as well as some stationery, who doesn't love stationery, and some other plant accessories that'll help you keep your plants happy and healthy. So all you need to do to enter the giveaway is subscribe to the channel and then comment below something that is a highlight from your year. So something that maybe makes you smile, maybe something's happened, or maybe you've achieved something that is really positive that you're happy to share with us, and then hopefully we'll have a nice string of positive comments to end the year on a high and start 2024 as we mean to go on. And then just some boring details which I've covered in the description below for reference, so you can enter from wherever you're based. I will send the prize worldwide wherever it needs to go depending on who the winner is, and the winner will be chosen at random using a random generator from eligible entries. And then all of these items have been bought by me, so none of these are gifted or are endorsed in any way. I hope you found the video interesting, and if you do go on to watch any of those other ones that are linked in the description that we've highlighted today, I hope you enjoy those and find them useful too. If you do like plant content, then consider subscribing. I'll have new videos every week. And if you've got any questions or suggestions, put them in the comments below and I'll respond to everyone. And as always, thank you for watching Grow Your Wellbeing.